Again, I'm going to have a video showing where these cars rust on the 356. Pretty much everywhere, because they didn't use the proper rust proofing techniques as they do today. Galvanized body, car dipped in primer, electroplated. Unfortunately, these cars didn't have that technology back then, so there was a lot of rust issues in these cars. So let's start off with the front right here, the battery box. 90% of them rust out on the bottom because the batteries leak acid, and it's a water trap. I just pressure washed this thing today, and this thing was all filled with water, and I had to vacuum it all out. These rust really bad. The floors rust really bad. The back wall rusts pretty bad. And also, if you go through here, right here, that structure right there, that Y brace, those rust out too. The floor, the front of the floor, the bulkhead rusts. Under the gas tank, you usually rust because it's got insulation or the padding, and that holds water. Where the vent, for the air vents, that gets water back there and it rusts. Where the washer bottle too. Just all in these structural areas right here. The seams, they get spot welds together and water gets behind it. It gets rusty there too. Headlight buckets, they get rusty inside here and on top because the dirt flies off the tire, and when water hits it, there's nowhere to go and it's not painted. So if you do a restoration, goober it up with a lot of paint underneath there so it don't rust. Taking it to the fender, these are the 90% rust on these cars. It's always in this area right here where they did the lead work, and sometimes the contamination of the lead causes the rust in the seams, and then it rusts from the inside out. Also in the door jambs, the pockets, water gets in there, dirt gets in there, and just gets a rusty area. In the seams right here, they rust really bad. Right here, where they meet together, water gets on top, goes inside, so it gets really messed up. In the door jambs, they always rust right here. Not all of them, but what I've seen, a lot of them do, because it's the same thing, rust, lead repair, water gets behind the lead, and it just disintegrates. Moving on inside here, the tunnel gets water in there because there's never had any paint in there, so it rusts from the inside out in the seams. So what I did is I sprayed some of this stuff in there after it was done. I'll show you what I did, but let's continue off with the rear seats. It's a bathtub. You can wash little kittens in there. The back part too, it's insulation that goes there. Water gets trapped behind it. They use that horsehair, or I guess not horsehair, but whatever they call it with asphalt, and then water just stays in there. Also in here, back in here where it meets, they stuffed it's like a wool, made out of wool, or just so that for blockage for animals, or just for air to come in. But that gets wet and it stays wet. The water has nowhere to go, so it stays there for years, and then it rusts out bad, real bad right here. Mine wasn't bad, it was starting to, so I removed that stuff and I replaced it, and then I put that rust proofing stuff in here. It always rusts in this little area, in these areas where water will accumulate, go inside here, and have nowhere to go. These are structural members, need to be really looked at when you're considering buying one of these. Same thing here, rust out here on these, where they, like I say, right here, there's a trap right there. It gets all, water gets in there, and there's nowhere for the water to go. In the longitude covers, where the heating tubes go, that gets filled with water. Oh, in here too, that gets messed up, and it always rusts right here because There's nowhere for the water to go. Rockers, pretty decent. There's a lip that's under here that tends to get rusty, but it's actually not a bad area. Where the seams meet, where the two floorboards go together, it gets rusted between that. And in the gas tank area, it gets all rusty right here too. So it's a place to check when you want to purchase one of these. Right here in front, there's a very little space in there. So what happens, water gets trapped in there, and it wasn't painted when they're new, and they get rusted out. Right here is the area that I think almost all of them rust, because the water gets inside this structural member, gets stuck in back there, and it rusts from the inside out. Like I say, these pockets where the door pockets is, there's really nowhere for the water to go, even though they have a small hole right here for the water to go down. This is to knock the pin out, and then this is drainage. But as you see, all that stuff is all folded together and spot welded together, and there's nowhere for the water to go. And if you don't put any of this stuff in there after you weld it, if you get water in there, it'll rust up. So in the door jambs too, they're not too bad. In here, mine wasn't bad, but they tend to rust there too. The speaker pockets, water gets in there, gets trapped, and there's nowhere for the water to go, and it will rust. So I just wanted to show you a few things. My car had rust issues pretty bad, but it was a savable car. The roof, it rusts right there in the seams, but this car was pretty darn good. So what I came up with after I did the rust repair, I had gotten this from a yard sale. It was like $10, and it's like an undercoating gun. And these things, you know, go inside the rocker panels and areas that you can't reach, and it has a little spray wand. So what you could do is get just a texture gun and put like a sprinkler head from a sprinkler, a small sprinkler, and then run it in there and use that this stuff too in there, and that'll help prevent it. Even the Creosote or whatever that stuff they use, it's like a wax product. But I'm in California, so I'm really not worried about rust after I paint this car. But if you're in an area where there's prone to rust, these cars, you just look at them, they rust. So I would run that stuff inside where the headliner, where the lips meet right there. Spray it inside those corners. Go inside all these little areas. All this thing's prone to rust, all this area. The tunnel, it gets all kinds of junk in there. So after I sprayed it, I'm gonna run my shifter back in there and get everything ready. So when I go paint this car, it'll be minimal stuff to put back together. So this is just what I found in my own car. And if you want to purchase one of these cars, it's something to look at. The high cost repairs are always in this area right here, always. Because there's a lot of metal folded all over each other. There's multiple layers. And if you're not a good fabricator, and or if you don't want a challenge to fabricate, or you're gonna pay someone to do it, I suggest you don't, because it's very expensive. And but you know, the panels aren't super expensive, and I made my own fender too. So, but it's not easy, but it's fun to do. So I would like to thank you very much, and I hope you learned something from it. Thank you, and God bless.